Namaste everyone. Welcome to NEET JEE Mains class. In the last class we stopped at 7th problem, now we are at the 8th problem. We had necessary synopsis for this. So welcome to the class, Namaste. Hope you are doing well. Okay, this is the problem. The height of mercury column in a barometer provided with a brass scale. So there is a mercury column and say the mercury level is here and there is a brass scale here. The height of mercury column in a barometer provided with a brass scale correct at 0 degrees Celsius. That means that brass scale is designed at 0 degrees Celsius. What are all the readings in the brass scale? They measure the correct reading at 0 degrees centigrade. Correct at 0 degrees centigrade was observed to be 75.2 centimeter at 20 degrees Celsius. At 20 degrees Celsius, the reading is found to be 75.2 centimeter. This reading is not proper because the brass scale correct at 0 degrees Celsius is now at 20 degrees Celsius. That means all its readings might have been expanded. Because when a metal scale is heated, it expands. Every 1 centimeter will be longer length. Even though it is written 0 and 1 at two places, they will be at a distance more than 1 centimeter. So 75.2 centimeter may not be the actual reading. Can you tell me the actual reading, whether it should be more than 75.2 or less than 75.2 centimeter? It should be more than 75.2 because suppose you take some example like 75 centimeter. Now if it 75.2 centimeters, that 75.2 centimeter is the expanded reading, right? If it was not expanding, if that scale was not expanding, that 75.2 centimeters would have been at the lower level, right? Then the actual height of the mercury column will be more. So some 76 or 77, something like that. It should have been the reading, right? So when the brass scale is heated to 20 degrees centigrade, 75.2 centimeter goes up. So now it is in the level of mercury, but actually it should have been more. So what is the change in length? That's what you have to calculate. Actually add it to 75.2 centimeters, right? So find out how much brass has expanded when it is heated from 0 to 20 degrees centigrade. That expansion extra has to be added to 75.2, right? Actually it has expanded and it is showing the reading which is here, but if it should have 75.2 should have been at lower place if it was not expanding, so it should have shown some higher reading. So what is the change in length? Change in length shown by the brass rod when it is heated by 20 degrees centigrade. So that is what you have to calculate. Okay, so what you have to do is, we know delta L by L into 1 by delta T per degree rise of temperature is alpha. So what is delta L? Alpha L delta T. So delta L, change in length of the brass rod when it is heated through 20 degrees Celsius, 0 to 20 degrees Celsius is, the true height of the water column is S. Change in length delta L, alpha, where is alpha? Alpha of brass rod is 18 into 10 to the power minus 6 and its length, say I will take it as 75.2 centimeters and change in temperature is 20. I will write the change in length as centimeters only so that I can add it to 75.2. So change in length, then height of mercury column, yes, true height. This will be 18 into, I will multiply this to 20, 4 and 10, of course 1 0, 4, 10, 15, right, and 1 0 here, 1504 into 10 to the power minus 6 delta L, change in length when it is heated through 20 degrees Celsius. Right, 18, 150 point, so this is into 18, 1504 into 18, that's what I have to do, 1504 into 18, 32, 40, 112, 12, right, then 14051, 27072. So, and here 27072 into 10 to the power minus 6. So if I put it in okay, this is only in centimeter because this is also in centimeters. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, delta L is equal to 0.027072 centimeter is the change in length when it is at something like 75.2 centimeters length. So what is that actual length? It should have been 75.2 plus this 0.027072, that is 75.227072. So this should be the actual height of the column, but it has decreased to some level. So 75.22723 something, right? 227 is 23. Very close answer. So that's why we have to go for all the calculations here. Oh, you can't see this, huh? Okay, somewhat, right? You can see this, yes. So 75.2 plus, I will write it again, plus that increase in length, 0.027072. So 75.227072, this 072, this should be the answer. So 75.23, nearest answer. And hope you have got why you have to add this. See, this should have been the actual length of the air column, mercury column. And if this length is substituted here, for example, then change in length is calculated, then it decreases by 0.0270. So that's why, the actual length should be more, right? Our actual position of the marking should be more. Now since it has expanded, it is showing the lesser reading because actually this position have gone up. So that is the answer, first one. Yeah, right. Okay. 9. A pendulum clock is 5 seconds faster at temperature of 15 degrees Celsius and 10 seconds slower at a temperature of 30 degrees Celsius than its calibration temperature. Okay. Then at what temperature does it show correct time? Yes. Okay. A pendulum clock is 5 seconds faster at temperature of 15 degrees Celsius and 10 seconds slower. 5 seconds faster and 10 seconds slower. Okay, at 15 and 30. Then, okay, between 15 degrees Celsius and 30 degrees Celsius, there should be a calibration temperature theta, which is lesser than 30 and more than 15, because a pendulum clock is 5 seconds faster, okay, at a temperature of 15 and 10 seconds slower. Okay, when it is heated it becomes slower because length becomes more and it vibrates slowly. Okay, time taken is more, then it's calibrated. At what temperature does it give correct time? Okay, so here it is delta T is so delta T, the correction time is 5 seconds and here the correction time is 10 seconds. Okay, so how to write the equation? You know that the correction time needed is half alpha delta theta into the time for which it is measured. That correction time has to be applied. 1 day, 2 days or so. That is common here. A pendulum clock 5 seconds faster at a temperature and for 30 degrees than its correct calibration. Okay, for a particular time, say it is per day, per week or something like that. Okay, delta T, shall I write this one here? 15 degrees Celsius, 5 seconds is equal to half alpha delta theta. Delta theta here is change in temperature. From theta it is 15, so theta minus 15, right? Correction time is, okay, it is a constant one. First equation. Say per day. Every day it moves 5 seconds faster. But at 30 degrees centigrade, every day it moves 10 seconds slower. Then how will be the equation? Here the correction time is 10 seconds. Same material, half alpha, but temperature difference is now you have to change it. 30 minus theta, because 30 is more. And in the same time T, equation 2. Shall we divide these two equations so that half alpha gets cancelled and only theta is required, which is the exact time where it is showing, exact temperature where it is showing the correct time. So what we can do, divide this, 10 by 5. Equation 2 divided by equation 1 gives 10 by 5 is equal to half alpha gets cancelled, 30 minus theta divided by theta minus 15. Okay, 30 minus theta divided by theta minus 15. So this is 2 times and 2 theta cross multiplication minus 30 is equal to 30 minus theta. I'll bring this here. 2 theta plus theta is equal to 30 plus 30. 3 theta is equal to 60. Theta is equal to 20 degrees Celsius. Theta is equal to 20 degrees Celsius. This is the answer, right? So you must know how this formula is, how it is applied. So this is the correction time, maybe plus or minus. It will be plus or minus depending on this temperature difference. If you go to a lower temperature, of course, this will be theta minus 15. And if you go to higher temperature, 30 minus theta, because higher minus lower. So accordingly, you will have plus 10 or minus 10 or plus 5, because 5 faster, 10 slower. Here it will be maintained. Okay, so our temperature is 20 degrees Celsius. Okay. 10. The coefficient of apparent expansion of mercury in a glass vessel is, okay, I'll rub this. Coefficient of apparent expansion of mercury in a glass vessel is 153 into 10 to the power minus 6 per degree Celsius, and in a steel vessel is 144 into 10 to the power minus 6 per degree Celsius. So if you heat mercury in glass vessel and mercury vessel, definitely its expansion, whatever is seen, is different, because mercury, when it is heated in glass vessel expands in a different way than steel vessel. So how much level of mercury goes up or down depends on the container also. That is apparent expansion. Truly, mercury expands by the same amount. Okay. If alpha of steel is so much, then that of glass is. So if you, with the very high patience, you have to solve this problem. See, we have the formula. The true expansion, real, we will write real expansion is equal to expansion apparent that we see plus expansion of the container. That's how we write the formula, right? How much container expands plus how much what do we see, and totally is the expansion of the material, or coefficient of volume expansion. Now we will write with the glass vessel. The apparent expansion of mercury in a glass vessel is 153 into 10 to the power minus 6, correct, in a glass vessel. And container, what about the container gamma? If alpha of steel is given, now we are writing it for glass first. What is the alpha of that of glass? Alpha of steel is given. Coefficient of linear expansion of steel is given. What is that of glass? So shall I write it as coefficient of linear expansion of glass as beta? Okay, I will take it as beta. Then I should write 3 beta. Because why, sir, it is 3 beta? Because gamma I have to substitute. They have given coefficient of linear expansion alpha. And asking that question, coefficient of linear expansion of glass, right? That is beta is taken, 3 beta. Real expansion, the coefficient, real expansion is same in both the cases, because it is mercury itself which is taken in both the containers. Gamma is same in both the equations. So now we will heat it in steel vessel. When you put it in steel vessel, real expansion is same because it is the same mercury, right? Only whatever we see is different because the container expands in a different way for steel and glass. Okay, what is the apparent expansion of steel? 144 into 10 to the power minus 6 plus its alpha is given. Steel alpha is 3 times, gamma is 3 times alpha, 10 to the power minus 6. Okay, what is this? Actually gamma is equal to, so you can substitute it here and you substitute, this one is 36, right? 144 plus 36, that is 1081, right? 180 into 10 to the power minus 6. 144 10 to the power minus 6, 36 into 10 to the power minus 6. 180 into 10 to the power minus 6. Put this here, right? 180 into 10 to the power minus 6 is equal to 153 into 10 to the power minus 6 plus 3 beta, right? So subtract this, 180 minus 153, 727. 27 into 10 to the power minus 6 is equal to 3 beta. That implies beta is equal to 9 into 10 to the power minus 6 per degree Celsius. Yeah, here is the answer. That's how we have to do. So you should be very patient while solving this problem, because so many things are given and so many things have to be converted into different form, 3 alpha, 3 beta, something like that, because alpha is given, and you must know the clear difference between real expansion and apparent expansion and container expansion. Then only you can do that. So actually easy problem, it's not very tough. Okay, a steel rod of cross-sectional area 1 millimeter square. Hope this is solved in one of the previous class. Is prevented by expansion, from expansion by heating it through 10 degrees Celsius. That means we have a rod between two rigid supports and it cannot expand. There is a thermal stress developed, and you know, stress by strain is Young's modulus. Stress is force per unit area, strain is change in length by original length. So what is thermal force? Of course you can write it as Fy A into delta L by L. So bring this here. So F is equal to Y into A delta L by L. But you know what is delta L by L? Alpha is equal to delta L by L into 1 by delta T. Bring this here. Alpha into delta T. So Y A alpha delta T. Directly you can substitute Y A alpha delta T. So what is the answer now? Okay, Y, Young's modulus 2 into 10 to the power 11, area of cross section 1 millimeter square. 1 millimeter square means 10 to the power minus 6. Millimeter, 10 to the power minus 3, 10 to the power minus 3. Millimeter square minus 6. And Y A alpha, coefficient of linear expansion 10 to the power minus 5 per degree Celsius. Correction. And alpha delta T, increase in the temperature when it is heated through 10 degrees Celsius. Heating through 10 degrees Celsius means going from 7 to 17, 80 degree to 90 degrees Celsius. That is heating through 10 degrees Celsius, which is itself 10 Kelvin. It's a difference of 10 degrees Celsius. So that's all what you have to do, and final answer is 2 into only 10 to the powers minus 11 plus 11. Correct? So minus 11 plus 11 gone. Into 10 will remain 20. Option 1. So simple problem, right? Only the thing is you must know a little bit beyond the theory, whatever is studied in the class. Yeah. Calorimetry. Yeah, I want to have a theory for part of this calorimetry. What is the theory part of the calorimetry? What is calorimetry? Measurement of heat energy. So we use calorimetry principle. Heat lost by the hot substance is equal to heat gained by the cold substance. That is the principle. Now, here I want to say a little more theory about this, because you can have the problems very easily then. If I narrate you the theory, problems become very easier. You see, any material, when it is heated, it requires some heat energy. It requires heat energy to raise its temperature. Now we will keep something standard. For example, temperature rise. We will measure how much heat energy is required to raise the temperature of different materials, but temperature rise is 1 degree Celsius. And how much material has to be taken? When I want to measure how much heat energy is required to raise the temperature of aluminum, copper, water and different materials, how much amount we will take? So that restrict it to 1 kg, because any amount of heat energy to be supplied to raise the temperature of any substance by any temperature, that depends on how much material you have taken. For example, if you want to boil 1 bucket of water, you need more heat energy. If you want to boil only 1 glass of water when you prepare a tea, the amount of heat energy required is less. When you are heating only 1 glass of water to boiling point, it is less amount of heat energy required. So amount of heat energy required to raise the temperature of any substance is directly proportional to its mass and directly proportional to the temperature difference. If you want to heat 1 bucket of water only by 50 degrees Celsius, and if you want to heat the 1 bucket of water by 100 degrees Celsius, amount of heat energy required is different. When you heat it through 100 degrees Celsius, you require more amount of heat energy. So more the heat temperature difference required, more will be the heat energy required. More the mass of the substance taken, more will be the heat required. Or Q is equal to, if you want to write, then C a constant into mc delta theta. C is called specific heat. What do you mean by specific heat? It is a particular value, right? Specific heat is Q equal to C if m equal to 1, or I will put it in the SI system, and delta theta is equal to 1 Kelvin. Amount of heat energy required to raise the temperature of unit mass of the substance by unit temperature value is called specific heat. So you don't take any random values of mass and temperature. Take 1 kg only. Compare it with the 1 degree Celsius rise or 1 Kelvin rise. It is one and the same. How much heat energy is required? That is called specific heat. So amount of heat energy required to raise the temperature of 1 kg of the substance by 1 Kelvin is called specific heat. That is in SI system. But in general terms, you can put it as it is the amount of heat energy required to raise the temperature of unit mass of the substance by unit value of temperature. That is called specific heat. And specific heat as a unit, you know that joule per kg per Kelvin. Right? Because C means Q by m by delta theta, right? Q by m, Q by delta theta. Joule per kg per Kelvin. But when you go for the melting point and boiling point, you know that if you take 1 kg of water, go on heating it, its temperature doesn't change. This disappears, right? Then what do you call C as? It is the heat energy is used just to evaporate water, to convert it into the gas state. When you heat ice just at the melting point, you know that amount of heat energy supplied is used to melt the ice. So it is not used to change the temperature, because as the ice is heated, for example, if you take ice at -5 degrees Celsius, heat it, it doesn't melt because it has to raise the temperature. Melting is happening at 0 degrees Celsius in normal pressure. It starts heating from -5 to -4 degrees Celsius, -4 to -3 degrees Celsius, -3 to -2, -2 to -1, 0. Once it reaches 0, heat energy supplied is used to melt the ice. Now, how much heat energy is required to raise the temperature or melt completely 1 kg of ice without changing its temperature? Of course, at the melting point, if you supply heat energy, its temperature doesn't change. It will use all the heat energy to melt. Then there is no delta theta. Now it is called latent heat, hidden heat. ml, you know it. What is m? The mass of ice taken. More the ice you take, you need more heat energy to melt it. Lesser the mass you take, lesser heat energy to melt it, and latent heat of that material. So latent heat of a substance is the amount of heat energy required to melt completely the unit mass of that substance. Similarly, you have latent heat of vaporization. This is latent heat of melting. What do you mean by latent heat of vaporization? The amount of heat energy required to convert the unit mass of the substance completely into its vapor state from the liquid state, and without changing the temperature. That is latent heat of vaporization. So there are two latent heats, one at the junction of converting from solid to liquid, another from liquid to gas. So at that junction, there is no change in temperature at all. Okay, so Q is equal to ml. There is no delta theta here, it is unity. Sorry, it doesn't appear there at all, not even unity. Okay, Q equal to ml. Right, now coming back to some values, that is more important, and right, some values. For example, 4200 joules per kg. This is SI system of specific heat of water. Specific heat of water is more, because it absorbs heat energy to get converted into vapor state, that is vaporization. Before that, it has the capacity of absorbing more amount of heat energy. Water has the capacity of absorbing more amount of heat energy before getting converted into vapor state, because its specific heat is I am talking about specific heat. Water has more specific heat, and if you want to raise the temperature of 1 kg of water by 1 Kelvin, you need this much amount of heat energy. I was talking something else. I was going to boiling point. Okay. So specific heat of water is 4200 joules, means if you want to raise the temperature of 1 kg of water by 1 Kelvin, you need 4200 joules. But other than this, a very important value is CGS system unit. That is very beautiful value. We have CGS system. Suppose you take 1 gram of water, raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius. If you want to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius, you require an heat energy of 1 calorie. That is a very famous unit. See how the values are, how beautifully arranged, right? Nature has arranged it like this. If you want to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius, all CGS systems, you need 1 calorie of heat energy. That means if I have 1 gram of water, sir, I want to raise this temperature from 0 degree to 100 degrees Celsius. How much heat energy I require? 100 calories. I want to raise it by 10 degrees Celsius, 10 calories, provided you have 1 gram. Right? Sir, I have 10 grams of water. Okay. I want to raise this temperature by 5 degrees Celsius, sir. What I have to, how much heat energy I have to supply? See, 1 gram water by 5 degrees Celsius requires 5 calories. 10 gram multiplied by 10 times, 50 calories you require, right, for 10 gram. That is very easy to calculate. Now, latent heat of fusion. Latent heat of fusion of ice is equal to 80 calories. What do you mean by that? If you have 1 gram of ice, completely to melt it into water at 0 degrees Celsius, because if it is at minus some 10 degrees Celsius, you need some heat energy to bring it to 0 itself. Such a work is not needed here. If you have only just melting ice at 0 degrees Celsius, 1 gram, and the heat energy required to melt completely 1 gram of ice into liquid state at 0 degrees Celsius is 80 calories. Right? What is the specific heat of ice? So this is specific heat of water. Specific heat of water is 1 calorie. What is specific heat of ice? Specific heat of ice is equal to 0.5 calories. What do you mean by 0.5 calories? Amount of heat energy required, of course, 0.5 calories per gram, okay? Per gram. 80 calories, okay. This is per gram. This is per gram per degree Celsius, right? Per degree Celsius, because joule per kg per Kelvin, right? Similarly, calorie per gram per degree. What is meant by 0.5 calorie per gram per degree Celsius? If you want to raise the temperature of 1 gram of ice by 1 degree Celsius, you need 0.5 calories of heat energy. Amount of heat energy required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of ice by 1 degree Celsius is 0.5 calorie. That is what is needed. And if you have all these values in your brain already loaded, you can work out many problems. For example, I will give some samples. Then the problems become easier because you will like the problems. If you have so many data inside the brain, you will start liking the problem. Otherwise, it becomes a long mathematical process and you won't like it. Now, suppose I have 1 gram ice in a beaker, say. I have 80 calories of, 80 degrees Celsius hot water. I have 1 gram ice, 1 gram ice at 0 degrees Celsius. I have 80 degrees Celsius water, 1 gram. I mix it up. So put one over the other like this, right? Mix them. What is the resultant temperature? Do you need to use this formula, mc delta theta, and put the formula like heat lost by the hot substance equal heat gained by the cold substance? Of course, you can do that, but simply you can do it. If you know all the values of the CGS units of water. You have 80 degrees Celsius water at 1 gram of water and 1 gram of ice at 0 degrees Celsius. When you mix it up, poor ice, which is at lower temperature, requires 80 calories of heat energy to completely melt, right? After melting, what about the temperature of that melted water, melted ice into water? That is 0 degrees Celsius only, because when ice melts into water, it doesn't change the temperature. Once the ice melts into water, then also if you supply the heat energy, then its temperature will rise. Till that, its temperature will remain the same. It will be busy in converting process from ice to water. So, an ice, 1 gram at 0 degrees Celsius, completely to get converted into water requires 80 calories of heat. What about this donator? Because hot substance is always a donator, cold substance is a just receiver. What about 80 degrees Celsius, 1 gram water? It is ready to donate 80 calories because till by the time it reaches to 0 degrees Celsius, it will be donating 80 calories, because every 1 degree rise of water requires 1 calorie of heat energy supply. Every 1 degree decrease of temperature of water is a reception of 1 calorie from water, isn't it? A supply of 1 calorie, it increases the temperature by 1 degree Celsius. A cooling of water by 1 degree, we will receive 1 calorie of heat energy. So if you cool this 80 degree Celsius water to 0 degree Celsius, you get readily 80 calories of heat energy. So 80 calories, by donating 80 calories of heat energy to 1 gram of water, by 1 gram of water, it can melt completely into ice. Now in the mixed beaker, what you will have? 1 gram of ice just converted into water in the water form at 0 degree Celsius. This donator water, by donating 1 by 1 calorie, it has come to 0 degree Celsius by donating all 80 calories. Now this is at 0 degree Celsius. So hot water has come to 0 degree Celsius. Cold ice has been melted into water and has come to 0 degree. You have 2 gram of water at 0 degree Celsius. Now there is no exchange of heat energy. Of course, if there is exchange of heat energy, whatever is gained, same amount is lost. So the total temperature of the mixture is 0 degree Celsius. Now suppose this is say 2 gram ice. What we will do? 2 gram ice at 0 degree Celsius, 80 degree Celsius, 1 gram of water. Now mix them up. What will happen? Again the resultant temperature is 0 degree Celsius, because of course resulting solution will not be completely water. In the previous example, the complete solution was water, but here the complete solution may not be water, but you will have a solution which contains a part of the melted ice and remaining water. All are at 0 degrees Celsius. How come? 2 gram of ice, in order to completely melt into 0 degrees Celsius water, it requires how much? That is latent heat of fusion, 80 calories of heat energy. It requires 80 calories of heat energy. If it requires 80 calories of heat energy, then 2 gram of ice requires 160 calories of heat energy. What about this? This is ready to give 80 calories. Sir, won't it give every calorie then by cooling again below the certain temperature? No, not possible. Because see, once the equilibrium is reached, how can you expect the change? This hot water, a good donator now, gives 1 degree, drops by 1 degree Celsius, say 79 degrees Celsius, 1 calorie is lost. That 1 calorie is used to melt 1 gram of ice, not 1 gram of ice, a part of the ice. 79 to 78, one more calorie, 78 to 77, 76, 75, like this. By the time this comes to 0 degrees Celsius, it has given 80 calories of heat energy, which is good enough to melt only 1 gram of ice. What about remaining ice? Remaining ice will be ice only at 0 degrees Celsius, 0 degrees Celsius, 0 degrees Celsius, 1 gram ice, and 0 degrees Celsius, 1 gram water. And this poor donator now donated and it has come to 0 degrees Celsius, 1 gram water. This is cooled water, this is melted ice, and this is remaining ice. So everything is 0 degrees Celsius. Now sir, can't this donator give further heat energy? No, not possible. Heat energy will be exchanged between two objects only when there is a temperature difference. Heat energy flows when there is a temperature difference. If there is no temperature difference, no heat energy flow, so nothing is possible. Suppose you happen to meet your friend after some 10 years, usually I give this example. If you happen to meet your friend, you are in a good position at that time and you have a good salary and you are driving a car, suddenly you happen to see that your friend is begging in the roadside. What you will do? You are a kind person. You get down from the car, ask your friend to come, take him to the house and clean him, give him food and start him or ask him to start a business. You just give finance to him and you will donate money to him, donate him because you want to bring him up till you become a beggar and he is driving a car in the road. Will you donate till he is a very rich person and you are a much poor? You donate every wealth to him? No. Once the equilibrium is reached, you will stop donating because let he come by himself. So similarly, water will donate and once the temperatures are equalized, no further exchange of heat energy, so it stops. Okay, that's one condition. So like this way you can generally calculate it, but some require solutions for the problems. Okay, shall we go to the problems now? At least few problems. Yeah, we have to open this. Yes, where we are? Calorimetry, yes. A piece of ice falls from a height h so that it melts completely, okay? From where does it get energy to melt? Of course, potential energy might have been converted into heat energy. A piece of ice falls from a height h so that it melts completely. Only 1/4 of the heat produced is absorbed by that ice, okay? So when it falls, the potential energy is mgh. 1/4 of that is used to melt, is absorbed by the ice, and all energy of ice gets converted into heat during its fall. Okay, then the value of h is, so the energy potential is mgh. In 1/4 of that is used to melt ice. Yeah, melt. Am I right? That's the only thing involved here. 1/4 of the total heat energy generated. If all the potential energy is converted into heat, then mgh. But 1/4 of that is used to melt ice. 1/4 of the heat produced is absorbed by the ice, and all energy of the ice gets converted into heat during the fall. The value of h is latent heat of and now only substitution. M gets cancelled. Same ice. G I will take it as 10, whatever they have given, because I have the nearest answer. G, H has to be found out by 4 is equal to latent heat of fusion of ice 3.4 into 10 to the power 5 joule per kg. What is H is equal to 4 into 3.4 into 10 to the power 5 divided by 10. 4 here, 10 here. This is 16. Where did we go wrong then? Yeah, we have the answer. 16, 13. 13.6 into 10 to the power 4. 110 comes here. And they want to put it in kilometers everywhere. Kilometer means you have to write this as 136 into 10 to the power 3 and 10 to the power 1 meter. Put this as kilometer. 13.6. 136, join this 10 and this 10. Kilometer. Because this 10 is used to combine with this one. This is kilo. 136 kilometer. We have the dot here, right? Same answer, right? I put dots because in order to verify. Sometimes small mistake in the calculation will lead to wrong options. 13. 1 kilogram of ice at 0 degrees Celsius is mixed with 1 kilogram of water at 80 degrees Celsius. Yeah, that's what we were discussing, correct? 1 kilogram of ice at 0 degrees Celsius is mixed with 1 kilogram of water at 80 degrees Celsius. 80 degrees Celsius, 1 kg water, and 1 kg ice at 0 degrees Celsius. So mix them up. The final temperature of the mixture is approximately. Specific heat of water is 4200, latent heat of ice. See whether you need to work it out, because if you convert this into a CGS system, you know that 80 degrees Celsius 1 kg water will be definitely having equal amount of heat energy to convert 0 degrees Celsius 1 kg ice, because you see both 1 kg. If this is 1000 gram, right? What is the amount of heat energy involved here? 1000 gram. If 1 gram of water cools from 80 to 79, you get 1 calorie. 1000 grams, 1000 calories. So 8000 calories of heat energy is available here. What is the amount of heat energy to convert 1 gram of ice completely into water? 80 calories. This one, this is again into 10 you have to write. 80 into 1000, right? 80,000, sorry, not 8000. 80 into 1000, 80,000. What about 1 kg of ice? In order to completely melt into water, 1 gram ice requires 80 calories. 1000 gram, 80,000. So donator is having enough money to give to the receiver. Everything is settled. So 0 degrees Celsius. Second option. Okay, 14. 150 gram of water at 100 degrees Celsius is added to 200 gram of water at 30 degrees Celsius. Resultant temperature is, okay, 150 gram of water at 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, heat lost is equal to heat gained. Water, who is the donator here? Both are heat water, one is hot water and this is cold water. So hot water will lose. You know the formula, Q is equal to mc delta theta. Now theta be the resultant temperature. It should be between 30 theta and 100. 100 will cool from 100 to theta. 30 will heat from 30 to theta. So heat lost. Mass, okay, let it be in grams. Everything will be grams. On the other side also it is in grams. Okay, no problem. 150 gram. Specific heat of water, let me write it as C because it gets cancelled. Delta theta, cooling, water cooling, 100 to theta. 100 minus theta, here you should be extremely careful. Heat gain, who will gain? Cold water, 30 degrees Celsius. That is how much gram? 200. Gram cancels. Specific heat, but it gets heated. Theta, sorry, heated, yes. Theta minus 30. Theta is higher, 30 is lower. So what is the answer now? 53 times, 54 times, Cc getting cancelled. 300 minus 3 theta is equal to 4 theta minus 120. 7 theta, 420. Wow, what a beautiful answer. 60, right? 70 is equal to 60 degree. 7 theta. Theta is equal to 420 divided by 7, 60 degrees Celsius. Correct? First option. Simple problem, just a substitution. Okay, 10 gram of ice at minus 20 degrees Celsius is added to 10 gram of water at 10 degrees Celsius. 10 gram of ice at minus 20 degrees Celsius is added to 10 gram of water at 10 degrees Celsius. We will list it. Ice, 10 gram at 10 degrees Celsius. Water, 10 gram of ice at minus 20 degrees Celsius is added to 10 gram of water. Say mass is same, so it is very helpful to us at 10 degrees Celsius. Specific heat of water is 1 calorie per gram. We know it, right? Every 1 gram water to raise this temperature by 1 degree Celsius, you get 1 calorie. Specific heat of ice is 0.5 calorie. Latent heat of ice is 80 calorie. Okay, that is all known values. Resulting temperature is. Now let us see whether this hot water donator, right, is strong enough to give all the heat energy to melt this ice. Even if it melts, just melts, okay. Then how to solve this? See how much this needs. We will calculate. 10 gram of ice. 1 gram of ice to completely, it is at minus 20 degrees Celsius. So you have to transfer or heat from minus 20 to 0, then melt. That is this part. This part has two jobs. Heat it from minus 20 to 0 and plus melt it. This part is needed. Now, what is the amount of heat energy required to convert from minus 20 to 0? 0.5 calorie per gram per degree Celsius. That is the specific heat of ice. For every degree rise of temperature, it requires 0.5 calories of heat energy. If it is so, for 20 degree rise, minus 20, minus 19, minus 18, minus 17, minus 16, like this, it needs 20 into 0.5. 10 calories here, right? And for 10 gram, 100 calories. Got it? Minus 20 to 0, it needs 10 calories for 1 gram. For 10 gram, because mc delta theta, right? So 100 calories plus to melt 80 calories, 1 gram. 10 gram, 800 calories. Totally 900 calories are required. What about this hot water, Dana Shura Karna? It is donating, right? It needs how much heat energy? 10 gram of water, 10 degrees Celsius. And if it comes to 0 degrees Celsius, cooling to 0 degrees Celsius, by that time it will have 10 calories, but 10 gram will have 100 calories. Now can it melt everything? No. This 100 calories can bring it from 20 to 0, that's all. That's all. This much is enough from this. This donates heat energy to this first. So minus 20 degrees Celsius cold ice will become 0 degrees Celsius ice, but it will be in the ice form only. And by that time, 10 gram, water might have lost all its heat energy and it might have come to 0 degrees Celsius. No further heat energy is required to melt or is not available to melt. So everything will be at 0 degrees Celsius. There won't be any exchange of heat energy. Ice will be in the ice form but at 0 degree, and water will be in the water form at 0 degrees Celsius. No exchange of heat energy. Okay. Next, 16. The quantities of heat required to raise the temperature of two copper spheres of radii 5 centimeter and 10 centimeter through 1 degree Celsius are in the ratio. Okay. The quantities of heat required to raise the temperatures of two copper spheres of radii 5 centimeter and 10 centimeter. See, radius of copper spheres are given. So there are two copper spheres, 5 centimeter radii and 10 centimeter radii. Radius 10 centimeter and 5 centimeter. You have to heat it through 1 degree Celsius. Now whether the amount of heat energy required same? No, because masses are different. Suppose it is asked, the question is like this. Suppose, what is the specific heat of two copper spheres of radii 5 centimeter and 10 centimeter? It is 1:1 because you are referring to two copper spheres. What is the specific heat of one bucket of water and one glass of water? Same. Because specific means you are referring it to 1 kg 1 degree Celsius. You are referring to water only, whether it is one bucket or one glass of water. You are referring to water. What are you asking? Specific heat. It is the amount of heat energy required to raise the temperature of 1 kg of the substance by 1 Kelvin. What is the rate of tomato in two different shops where there is more tomato in one shop, less tomato in another shop? Rate is same. What do you mean by rate? Per kg. Whether you are having more tomato in your shop, per kg value is not different. It is same as another shop. Similarly, specific heat of these two copper spheres, even though they are larger and smaller, it is always taken for 1 kg. It is 1:1. But they are asking you what is the ratio of the quantities of heat required. Quantities of heat required. What do you call heat capacity? It is given another name, heat capacity. The total amount of heat energy required. Quantities of heat required, Q is equal to, it depends on mc delta theta, right? Here in this problem, you see, you have two copper spheres. For both of them, you have to compare the formula. But when you compare the formula, both should be heated through 1 degree Celsius. No competition. No competition of temperature. Both are of same material. So quantity of heat required is directly proportional to mass. How do you get mass from the radius? Same material, density is same. Density is equal to mass by volume. Mass is equal to density into volume. Density is always constant. Mass is directly proportional to volume. So directly proportional to volume, directly proportional to r cube. 4/3 pi r cube. Always volume will be in the cube form, cube of the distance. Quantity of heat required 1, quantity of heat required 2. The heat capacity 5 cube by 10 cube, 1/8. This is option 1:8. So 5 by 10 whole cube, that is 1/2 whole cube, 1:8. So that's how you can solve it. Okay, we'll move on. 17. 5 kg of water at 20 degrees Celsius is added to 10 kg of water at 60 degrees Celsius. 5 kg of water at 20 degrees Celsius is added to 10 kg of water at 60 degrees Celsius. Neglecting the heat capacity of vessel and other losses, the resultant temperature will be. Okay? 5 kg of water at 20 degrees Celsius is added to 10 kg of water at 60 degrees Celsius. Yeah, that is same as the previous problem, right? 5 kg water at 20 degrees Celsius and 10 kg water at 60 degrees Celsius, and okay, the resultant temperature is here, theta. So heat lost and heat gained by this one. So they must be same. Heat lost must be equal to heat gained. And how do you write here? Mass. So you know the general formula, mc delta theta. Mass is 10 kg. Specific heat same, or I'll write yes, specific heat, or C, anything. Okay, I will write C. mc delta theta. So you have to decrease from 60 to theta. 60 minus theta, theta is lesser. Here, this is the only part where you have to be extremely careful. Mass 5, specific heat C, but theta minus 20, theta is greater. This will heat up by gaining the heat energy. Cc gets cancelled, 5 2 times. Theta minus 20 is equal to 120 minus 2 theta. What else then? 3 theta, 140. Are you getting some odd answers? Somewhere you have gone wrong. 120 minus 2 theta. Is it okay? 5 kg of water, 20, and 10 kg of water at 60. 60 will go down to theta, 10 kg. 5 will raise to theta minus 20. 5 2s are Cc gone, theta minus 20. 120 minus 2 theta. Then approximately nearly temperature will be nearly 140 divided by 3. Yeah, nearly 47. You will get 21. It is 20 here. Yes, 47 degrees Celsius. Nearly. 18. Two metallic spheres whose radii are in the ratio 2:3 and densities are in the ratio 5:6 have the same heat capacities. Same heat capacities means both require the same amount of heat energy to raise their temperatures. Okay, by 1 degree Celsius. The ratio, no, they have total heat amount of heat energy. The ratio of their specific heats is, so try to understand the problem. Two metallic spheres, different, they are not both copper or both aluminium. Otherwise you would have written 1:1. Two metallic spheres whose radii are in the ratio 2:3 and densities are in the ratio, we'll write it, radii are in the ratio 2:3, densities are in the ratio 5:6, have the same heat capacities. That is, total amount of heat energy required to raise their temperature is same. Then the ratio of their specific heat is, right? You know Q is equal to mc delta theta. That part you know, right? Now using this, Q1 must be equal to Q2. Total amount of heat energy must be same when it is raised through same temperature difference. Otherwise it cannot be so. Now Q1, mass of this m1 and c1 delta theta, m2 c2 delta theta, right? They have same heat capacities when heated through same degree temperature rise. Okay, delta theta gets cancelled. Now their ratio of specific heats, c1 by c2 is equal to m2 by m1. Mass is equal to density into volume. Volume 2, density 1, volume 1, density 2, radius 2 cube, density 1, radius 1 cube. C1 by C2 is equal to density 2, radius 2 cube, density 2 by density 1, 6 by 5. Yeah, correct? M2 C2, yeah. C1 by C2 is equal to M2 by R, yes. R2 cube by R1 cube. R2 cube by R1 cube. 927 by, okay, we'll write it, 3 by 2 whole cube, correct? 3 by 2 whole cube, 6 by 5, 27 divided by 8, and again it's nearly, this is 81, 20, almost 4, correct? 4 times, almost 4 times, 4:1, almost, nearly they are asking, so that may be the nearest answer. Okay, 19, a metal of mass m requires an input power of P to just remain in its molten state. Okay, that means if you want to maintain it in the molten state, you have to, I think you have to keep on heating it, because it will lose the heat energy, otherwise it will get melted, sorry, it will solidify. So you have to keep on heating it. It requires input power P to just maintain it, remain in its molten state. When the heater is switched off, the metal solidifies in a time of T. Yeah. when you switch off the heater, it exchanges heat energy with the surroundings and it gets solidified, right? When the heater is switched off, no heat energy is supplied from the heater, so it suddenly exchanges heat energy, it loses heat energy to the surroundings, gets solidified. But it requires a time of T. The latent heat of fusion of this metal is, yes. Power, what do you mean by power? We will start from power. Power of that heater is energy divided by time. Energy by time is power. What do you mean by energy? That energy, heat energy supplied, because a heater will be having or delivering energy in the form of heat. A fan will be delivering energy in the form of mechanical energy. And a light bulb will be giving energy in the form of light. In the same way, this heat energy given per unit time is used to melt it, right? Keep it in the molten state. So what is energy? Power into time. This heat energy is nothing but the amount of heat energy supplied to melt it, right? Melt the solid into liquid, that is molten metal, right? To maintain the metal. Now shall I write this as U as ml, the mass of the solid that is taken and or in the liquid form, mass of that material in the liquid form, into the latent heat of vaporization, latent heat of fusion. That is the heat energy that has to be supplied to melt it or keep it in the molten state. Now what is the question? The latent heat of fusion of this is L is equal to Pt by m. Hope you have followed, right? Pt by m. Correct? Yes. This is one. So in order to maintain it in the molten state, you have to supply heat energy which will lose to the surroundings. So from here you can start. Power is energy by time. Energy that you have to supply is the latent heat of fusion, mass into L, Q equal to ml. So L is Pt by m. Do you have any problem regarding this now? Water is more preferred as coolant in the radiators. Yes. You might have seen some Jeep, right? Especially vehicle Jeep, or any other lorry or bus. When it runs for a longer distance, if the engine gets shut off, immediately driver gets down, opens the engine and puts some water into that, right? There is a space provided. Why? Because when the engine gets heated, in order to cool it, there should be an exchanger. There should be an object which will receive that heat energy, which we will use water, because water can absorb large amount of heat energy before getting converted into vapor state. Its specific heat is high, and so it can absorb heat energy and absorb heat energy, so to a large extent. So it will have not this answer. So its high thermal capacity. It is always used. You see, coolant is always water. It will absorb the heat energy and circulate and maintain the heat energy. So water is a material which has high specific heat and high thermal capacity. High thermal capacity means before getting converted into the next state, it can absorb large amount of heat energy. If water is sprinkled in a room, you feel it is very cool, because water can absorb heat energy from the room and before getting converted into the vapor state. Yeah, I think before going, thermal expansion, that we will do it in the next class. So we will have that part in the next one. Thanks for watching my class. You can work out those problems yourself, and later you can watch my class just for reference, that whether my that solution is correct or not, just for that. So you can take it as a reference class, that's all. So you need not wait for my explanation. Whenever I get time, I may upload 2 or 3 classes also. So don't wait for the class, try to solve them, and we will utilize the time. So thanks for watching my class. Take care of your health. Let us meet in the next class with more problems. Thank you.